Innovation and creativity are central to entrepreneurship. But what happens when you go beyond the edge? The Frontier Entrepreneurship Podcast brings you the world's first, the disruptive, the avant-garde. We take you to the frontier in conversation with the entrepreneurs who are the forerunners of the industries of the future. Get to know their world with co-hosts Braden Kemp and Tracy Morningstar. Think of a field of corn at the end of the season. What happens to the rows and rows of plant material left behind after harvest? Well, according to the experts, about 140 gigatons of biomass are discarded every year, contributing to a significant environmental burden. But what if all of this biofiber had a use? Maybe making it into value-added products? And what if they are better for you and the planet? Today, we take you to the top of a mountain of agro-waste at the frontier of the circular economy with Rashmi Prakash, CEO of Aruna Revolution.
Welcome to the Frontier Entrepreneurship Podcast. I'm Braden Kemp here with my co-host Tracy Morningstar.
Hello, Braden.
Today we're taking you to the frontier with Rashmi Prakash from Aruna Revolution Health. Rashmi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Can you start by giving us a bit of an overview of what Aruna is doing and why you're doing it?
So Aruna is starting a menstrual health revolution, and we're doing it with compostable menstrual products that are better for the body and the planet. And we're doing it by utilizing natural fibers. And one of the products that we're working on is natural fibers that we extract from agricultural residuals. So think of like stems and leaves after the grains have been harvested. We take that and we extract the fibers from it and we turn them into clean, soft, safe fibers that we can use in our menstrual products. This is really important because there's a lot of challenges with menstrual products on the market right now. As you're probably aware, there was a recent study that came out by UC Berkeley that highlighted that there are heavy metals present in certain menstrual products, such as lead and arsenic, which, is questionable to be putting into such a sensitive area of your body. But beyond that, they also contain carcinogens, such as dioxins, as well as PFAS. So lots of challenges with the materials that are in menstrual products right now. But beyond that, the products right now don't also have an end-of-life plan. They're currently ending up in landfills. And if you think about the fact that 50% of the world menstruates, quite a large portion of their life and how many products they have to use on a monthly basis. And even the reusable products, they still don't have an end-of-life plan and still end up in landfills too. So right now we're seeing approximately 20 billion menstrual products and their packaging ending up in landfills every single year. And when you put it into perspective, we're using these products for between 4 to 8 hours, but they're sitting in the landfills for over 500 years. So it really is a problem that we need to solve and make sure it's not a problem that our future generations have to deal with.
That's a couple incredible statistics that you just gave us there. 20 billion menstrual products and their packaging in the landfill every year, and perhaps 500 years to decompose. And I'm sure that they're not decomposing in a environmentally friendly manner. What are the materials that the industry is using right now that's contributing to that waste problem?
Yeah, so one of the biggest ones that the industry is using is obviously polyester. So there's lots of synthetic plastic petroleum-based fibers on the market right now. And the reason that these are being used is, one, because it's significantly cheaper. And they're able to control the functionality of the pad to a certain extent in that, it absorbs and does what it's supposed to. But these synthetic fibers are not comfortable. And they often cause irritation, rashes, and lots of other challenges. And then other more, in quotation marks, you can't see the video, but in quotation marks, sustainable product are things like cotton, that also come with their own challenges. So we're seeing lots of cotton and as well as some bamboo too, but mostly cotton on the market for more sustainable menstrual products. And even if they're organic, they still contain sort of a whole range of challenges. Firstly, the resources that are being used to grow cotton. Secondly, the ethical practice of harvesting cotton, the way that it's not done in a way that is sustainable for and good for the labor workers that are doing it. They often get infections and challenges with their lung by harvesting cotton the way that it's currently done. And then, there's also material challenges with cotton as well.
Interesting.
Since we started using these types of products, was there something previously that was used that had that where we could draw from that past solution?
Ooh, great question. So, the history of menstrual products is quite interesting because, prior to sort of any kind of formal menstrual product being developed, how people were managing this and how my own mother managed this was with a folded up cloth. So they would use a folded up cloth, but again, it's not very comfortable. And the folded up cloth doesn't have that plastic liner underneath, that the current pads have on the market. And so it would like bleed through, and it also the way that like blood stiffens your underwear when it dries up. And so it would cut into your skin. So there's a lot of challenges with the type of, product. And we're actually seeing that a little bit with reusable products. What's really interesting, and I recently discovered this, is people started sort of using like gauze and other types of products to try and create the first initial menstrual products. And I recently found out that in Canada, in the Indigenous communities, they were using fluff from cattails as it. And so there's a lot of really interesting and unique solutions out there. And some of them, such as the cattails, are very sustainable and they function very well. So we're definitely taking inspiration from the natural solutions that we're seeing that were present long before menstrual products were officially created by in the way that you see it on the market right now.
I find myself asking sort of a version of this question to a lot of the innovators that we talk to. And so I'll do it again. We've used compostable, call it environmentally friendly or natural materials forever as humans in all sorts of applications. Obviously in this industry, we got away from it. It seems to me that while being technically difficult, it's a fairly easy conclusion to come to, that we can use more environmentally responsible materials in menstrual products. Why are we not doing it?
So the biggest reason that a lot of this was switched over to plastic was economic and environmental trade-off. So economically, it's much cheaper to create plastic pads. And nowadays, actually, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but before it certainly was. And so that was one of the biggest reasons that people switched over to plastic products. But we're starting to see, obviously, the challenges with the irresponsible consumption of plastic now. And I think the other thing is people are becoming more and more aware of it. So they're actually demanding it. Whereas in the past, even within like a decade or two ago, natural products almost had a stigma associated with them where it was like less functional and like less cool if it's like not made out of some kind of like highly like, I don't know, innovative material. And so I think we're returning to this understanding and idea that that perspective doesn't make sense and natural products are actually the way to go. And so now we're starting to see that growth of people actually making an effort to try and get to these natural products. And so you're seeing a lot of these different brands come out with, cotton pads, as I was talking about, and other sort of even like reducing the percentage of plastic and increasing the percentage of plant-based fibers. The reason that they haven't been able to do what we've been able to do is because there is a technical barrier that we've solved with our IP where we're actually able to create the fibers to the specifications. So the length, the crimp, the diameter, all of those little parameters that really matter with fibers, so that we can actually manufacture them into the materials that we need. So like the non-wovens, to turn them into menstrual pads.
You just called it plastic, and it is plastic, but we don't hear that often. Do you think the average consumer knows that these products are essentially plastic?
Maybe more so now, but still, I don't think it registers, to be honest. I don't think we look at these products and we think about the materials involved in them unless it's part of what we do. And after I started working on Aruna, I've become so much more conscious of like all the materials, all the way to like the ink that's printed on paper. I'm starting to think about that. And I'm seeing like cardboard boxes that could be recycled, but they're covered in plastic. They've got a plastic layer on them. And I'm like, why do we do this? So I think unless you're highly aware of the materials, you're not going to think about it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of marketing dollars that are spent to perhaps redirect our thinking on what these materials really are.
Oh yeah, and the use of the word biodegradable triggers me every time. It triggers me so much now.
How does the name Aruna Revolution embody the spirit of ecofeminism and empower women to put into action positive social and environmental change?
So the name Aruna itself has a couple of different meanings, which are all very intertwined. So the one that I relate to the most is from my own culture. Aruna is the charioteer of the sun. And so you've kind of got this person that is shining the light on all of these challenges, but also you've got this like solar cycle now, the cycle of the sun. And then in a different culture, it also means moon love. So you've got kind of the cycle of the moon and just recognizing that all of these are natural cycles, including menstrual health. And so that's where the name Aruna comes from. So light, shining light, and just natural cycles. And then the revolution aspect is where I think we really stand out as a brand and what we're trying to do with the social impact that we're trying to have. In the sense that, growing up, the ads that you would see on TV for menstrual products are women in like white skirts and white clothes, like running around playing tennis. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever done that. I think people have really reduced the effect of periods by showing them as something that is not challenging and that can be solved by a menstrual product. And we don't want to do that. We know that with this menstrual product, we're not solving the challenges that come with menstruation. We're helping make it better. But also we're destigmatizing it by having these conversations. So a huge portion of what we're doing is the education around menstrual health and menstrual stigma. And by having these conversations. So never in my life when I was younger did I think I would be talking about periods on a podcast, on TV and everything. And, I've been on stage with like hundreds of like male investors and I've held up a menstrual pad and I've been like, periods, like, let's talk about it. And so I think a huge portion of what we're doing is destigmatizing that conversation. And that's really important because if we don't destigmatize it, then people won't feel comfortable enough to talk about the challenges that come with it. And there's some really significant challenges, all the way to PMDD, where people experience severe depression and suicidal thoughts on their period. And if you don't know about this, you're just going to think that there's something wrong with you and you won't be able to associate it with your menstrual health. And so by destigmatizing those conversations with our revolution, we're allowing for people to have a safe space to talk about this.
How was it received when you have these open conversations, as you say, on a stage in front of a bunch of generally male investors?
You know what? I would say more recently, it's been received very well. I think a lot of people recognize that this is something that needs to be worked on. We're in the right space at the right time right now, doing the right project. And, we're starting to see all of these people like demanding more and demanding better products. And so these male investors do get it. And a lot of them, when I do speak to them, they talk about their daughters, their wives, and they relate to it in the sense of caring for the people around them, which I think is perfectly fine when you don't experience menstruation yourself. And then I think, obviously we've had little incidences where, we've had a demo table and someone's kind of come by and seen menstrual products and gotten shocked and like turned away, done like a quick 180. And so I think it's just a matter of recognizing that there are still people that are working on themselves to destigmatize it and to be sort of empathetic towards that, and to also encourage the conversations in a way that is comfortable for people, because at the end of the day, it's just having that conversation is like step one. And doing it in a way that people are able to receive it, and whatever that may be, whether it's talking about their children, their wife, or, sometimes we also have people talking about the materials and referring to them as like diapers, or talking about diapers instead of the menstrual pads too. So, just working with people to meet their needs and able to in order to have these conversations is how we're approaching it.
This is an aside, but you mentioned diapers. I have a toddler, and the volume of garbage plastic, I assume, that's in diapers is astonishing. And we use about 50% disposables and 50% reusables, and it's still something that I just feel bad throwing in the garbage every time. Is that a potential?
Diapers are next.
Diapers are next, yeah.
We already validated that our technology works with diapers because we did a capstone project with UBC for it. So we know that it works. It's a next step because we're scaling up the fiber extraction process, and diapers need a lot of material.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me that you had mentioned that you're a gardener. I think that being an entrepreneur, your visionary approach in innovating sustainable health products, how can a budding entrepreneur like yourself leverage the principles of gardening to cultivate a successful business?
Ooh, I love this question. I'm such a big gardener. I love gardening, and this is my season right now. There's like, I'm growing this like variety of, sorry, it's totally random and you can cut this out, but I'm growing this a variety of corn that is it's like the purple corn, and I've never grown that before, so I'm really excited for that. And I have a bunch of like orange trees and lemon trees and everything. Anyway, I'm a proud gardener. Yes, I think that there's a lot of principles actually from gardening that I bring with me to my world of entrepreneurship, and perhaps one of the biggest one is patience. As much as I wish the plants don't grow in a day, they take several months, if not weeks, several months. And so I think patience is something that gardening has certainly taught me, and also consistency. I have to water them every day. I have to fertilize them frequently. I have to check for bugs like every single day. And I have to, if there's like a caterpillar or something eating it, so I'll take it off and move it onto something else that I don't care about. And so, yeah, I think that consistency is something that gardening has really taught me. And attention to detail too. The little details really matter, and to be able to identify when a plant is thriving, and to be able to sort of like, change it and be adaptive, with the plants. And, sometimes you have a really wet season, and so you need to add in a different type of soil. And sometimes you haven't, like, different weather requires different, attention for plants. And so being able to be adaptive and, paying attention to that detail really matters. So I think those are maybe just some of them. I think that there's a lot. Yeah,
absolutely. I also think building this new frontier that you're building in the product that you're producing, even that you have to have patience, because what you're doing is essentially trying to develop change in the way that we think about this new product. When could we expect to see it on the shelf?
Great question. So we're in the process of launching V1 of our pads. And so V1 is going to be made out of hemp, specifically. And so hemp, and is going to be fully compostable, of course. So that is actually underway for production right now, which is really exciting. It's being produced with our equipment manufacturers in Europe, so it's not the most ideal situation, and we're obviously going to be working with them to bring the equipment in-house so that we can do everything locally, because that's something that's big for me, is to try and do as much locally as possible to, one, not only stimulate the economy, but also because it's more sustainable. You don't need to ship it across the ocean. And then, so that is going to be V1. And we're also currently scaling our manufacturing facility for fiber extraction so that we can actually utilize more and more of this agricultural residuals, because we've got a lot of it available and farmers are ready to give it to us and sell it to us. So, we need to actually scale up our fiber extraction. So we're making more than like 50 kilos a day. So we're working towards that right now. We're setting it up, and hoping by the end of the year, we'll be able to have it up and running so that we're producing approximately a ton per month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through that process of taking an agricultural feedstock and transforming it into, the fiber that you need to make your products?
Absolutely. So there's quite a few steps involved. So step one is, after the grains have been harvested, the farmers are really kind enough to collect everything and bale it for us. Sometimes they're actually even able to leave it out on the field to ret before they bale it, and that helps the process speed up a lot more. So the field retting, for those that don't know, is essentially just leaving the stems out on the field, and then the microbes that exist in the field. They actually go through and chew up like the lignin, the sugars, the pectin, the lignin, anything that we don't want. They're actually going through and chewing that up. And if you leave it for a specific amount of time, then what's left over essentially is just the cellulosic fibers that we're looking for. And our process then is much more efficient. But even if they don't do that, they're actually still able to take it and process it through a machine that chops it up into little pieces. And we take that and we bring it into our facility then in like these bags. And so that gets put through our process where we clean out the fibers to get rid of any dust or any particles. And then we mechanically extract the fiber. So we mechanically separate all of these plant-based materials. And then once we've mechanically separated them, then we put this through a chemical processing. And so this chemical processing essentially just does the final breaking apart where if there's any pectin or lignin or any of that that's left over, it just completely takes it out. And all that's left then is the cellulosic fibers. And the chemicals themselves, were actually really proud of this, but they're able to be used firstly 18 times. And then in addition to that, once it's done, it's now got all of the useful nutrients from the plant. So we're actually able to return this to farmers as fertilizers.
No way. Man, that's a cool cycle.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's really important to me that it's not just the product that's sustainable, but the process as well. It doesn't make sense if we're creating a sustainable product if we're harming the environment in the process. So yeah, we've been really mindful of that.
You said something earlier that that I think kind of indicates your commitment to sustainability all over the place. When you're talking about your garden, you mentioned, taking a bug off of something that you do care about it eating and moving it to something that you don't care about eating. And if that doesn't illustrate a commitment to sustainability, I don't know what does.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I love bugs, caterpillars, all of them. I pick worms out of the pavement when it rains. So yeah, I'm a animal person. I love them all.
What otherwise would happen with these agricultural feedstocks? So, I know in general farmers are pretty good at finding a use for things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so, if you weren't offloading this feedstock, what other things would be happening with it?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things that happen with the feedstock right now. So typically they're able to actually put it back into the soil. But there's certain types of plants where they've essentially doubled the yield of it by being able to pack them in more densely. And an example of that is corn. And so if they take it and they put it back into the soil, there's so much of it that it doesn't actually degrade properly. So when it comes time to sowing in the new seeds, it just doesn't work effectively because now there's a whole bunch of this non-degraded material that's left over in the soil. And so instead, what some of the other things they do is they use it as feed for animals, or one of the farmers that I was chatting with uses it for their maize during Halloween. So they certainly do use it, but there's so much of it that sometimes they end up incinerating it and burning it.
Yeah.
And if in certain cases, if they're actually able to make money from it, then it's even better for them. So, yeah, that's why we're working with those farmers to actually just purchase it from them and use it for our feedstock.
There's an incredible amount of just material. And, if someone has driven past a cornfield or even a bean field, you don't really think about it unless you get out of the car and you go stand beside those corn stalks. I mean, they're 10, 12 feet high in some cases and planted 4-6 inches apart across 400 acres. So there's just a lot of material out there.
Absolutely. There really is. Yeah.
From the concept to putting out to market and then the whole recycling stages of your entrepreneurship journey with your product. It really tells me that even when we're producing something, that we don't need to take away from the environment. We don't need to harm it if we're very thoughtful. And you are genuinely a very thoughtful person. And just showing us that it could be done, I think can motivate other entrepreneurs?
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think I'm under the mindset that, we're not necessarily using nature, we're a part of nature. And so, if we work well with it, it will work with us too, and it will take care of us if we take care of it. So, yeah.
Rashmi, the industry that you're in is concentrated and it's sort of controlled by a handful of large and powerful competitors.
Totally.
How do you take that genuine care for the environment that you're speaking about and go up against these big players that certainly talk about a care for the environment, but I think perhaps their business practices don't necessarily reflect that being true?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I think we're able to do that in a few ways. Firstly, I think I like to try and remind myself that all of these big competitors were once small too. That kind of gives me a sense of peace. Like, okay, it's okay. We'll get there one day too. But beyond that, I think what's different now compared to before is that people have immediate access to information in a way that they didn't before, and also to be able to learn about and share information in a way that they didn't before. And so I think that is something that is really there for our benefit, especially, I guess, as a small company. People are really looking at this and like trying to figure out better solutions. And we saw how quickly like the UC Berkeley study about the heavy metals and menstrual products went viral. And everyone was talking about it. Everyone was like having an opinion about it. And so I think that is there for our benefit. We're able to provide education. We're able to provide the information in a way that we really resonate with the end users that want to use these products that are sustainable. And then I think beyond that, by creating this product that has natural fibers, we're also sort of perceived as a higher quality product almost now compared to before. So I think people are starting to take that perception. But I think, from the business development perspective, how we're approaching this is we're first starting with the people that understand this right away. So there's businesses that have sustainability policies that we're selling to. There's individuals that, their core is very similar to ours and care about sustainability in the way that we do. And we're working with government organizations and other organizations to get our products out into all of these spaces. And so we're starting with the people that are our people. And then as people find out about this, there's so many different aspects to our brand that resonate with people in different ways. So it's not just the sustainability, but it's a revolution aspect of it. It's the fact that, it's not this like greenwashed product that has like random branding that is similar to every other branding. It's like truly a product that is developed by like women that are frustrated with the products that are on the market, and it comes from a place of rage. And I think that rage is shared by so many people. And so that really resonates. And so, yeah, I think we're approaching it from a human perspective. And then I think at the end of the day, this will add pressure for transparency with all of the other brands too, and their ability to innovate, because we've already started doing this and we have our IP, we kind of have that barrier, or have created that barrier for them rather.
Could you introducing some of your team that, having different impacts on your brand?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've had different iterations of our team because we're an early stage startup, and but up until this year, basically everyone, including like all of our engineers, everyone that has been part of developing our product and our brand has actually been women. And this is not, just because we're selecting it, but it was like the most qualified and the people that had the most passion about making this. And I mean, that kind of makes sense. And then this year, our team, we added 2 men that are very passionate about this. And it's been really interesting having their perspectives too, and kind of having these conversations with them and seeing where, the education differences are. But okay, let's jump to our team right now. So we have Gurleen, who is a registered nurse. We have Sabiha, who's a biomedical engineer. We have Chaitra, who's an environmental engineer. We have Kavya, who is a mechanical engineer. We have Corbin, who's also a mechanical engineer. We have Vicky, who is a chemical engineer. Sorry, I forgot for a second. And then we have Bridget, who is helping with our marketing. Yeah.
Sounds like a superhero team.
Yeah, I know. Oh, and then we also have John, who works part-time with us, but he is a manufacturing engineer. So yeah, lots of different types of expertise is coming together and putting their brilliant minds into this and helping me.
That's awesome. How are you, where are you in the path of funding this business? Are you going down the venture track or finding non-dilutive options?
Yeah, so up until now, we've actually been fully driven off of non-dilutive. And I think there's been a few reasons for that. We've really wanted to make sure that we are able to build a sustainable product that isn't sort of compromised by the demands of investors. When I initially started this company, I actually spoke with a few investors and they're like, why don't you just go manufacture here? And when I, manufacture there, then I have to include a specific percentage of plastic or a specific percentage of, a additive that is actually a carcinogen. And so I'm like, ooh. And so that was kind of like the first warning sign for me where I was like, okay, I really need to find the right people to be investors for us. And I'll take my time with that and make sure we're doing it properly. But yeah, so up until now, we've been completely run off of non-dilutive funding from grants and pitch competitions. And now we're actually starting our very first raise, and we're raising $2 million to finalize our manufacturing facility and build up the inventory, because we've got more purchase orders now than we have inventory, which is really exciting but kind of scary because now we need to actually make these products. So we're raising to be able to meet the demands of the market.
That's fantastic. Rashmi, this has been a really fascinating conversation, and I think we could probably talk about it all day. It's really great to talk with entrepreneurs who are passionate about solving real life problems in a sustainable way. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being able to talk about it, and I am grateful for the questions that you've asked as well. Thank you.
We'll be right back after this short break.
This past summer, NCFTC became NVenture. Learn about our new brand, the second season of our podcast, funding opportunities, and more at nventure.ca.
We return to the Frontier Entrepreneurship Podcast with co-hosts Braden Kemp and Tracy Morningstar.
Tracy, in our day jobs, we both talk to all kinds of people who are working on all sorts of different entrepreneurial projects. And I suspect that you have developed, like I have, a bit of a spidey sense for entrepreneurs who are really authentic and truly care about what they're doing beyond just, the business or financial opportunity that they see. And for me, Rashmi is one of those authentic innovators, and she's got an honest mission, and she's going to find a way to success one way or another.
Absolutely. And what I appreciate about that is, gardening is something that we do in our everyday life. When you're a gardener, you appreciate every stage, like she talked about very eloquently, and how she's able to put that in practice, putting together this new product that is going to definitely change our concept of menstruation. But I always find too that when we have these conversations, and they're a real frontier entrepreneur when they like to pen their own phrases.
Yep, absolutely. And I think a lot of great innovators do that. And I like to say also, I meant to ask Rashmi this question: is it your first startup company? Because I think that it is, but it certainly seems like she's been here before.
Yeah, she's very comfortable in her place as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to thank Rashmi again from Aruna Revolution Health for a great conversation and giving us some insight into her world. And Tracy, yourself, for another great conversation.
Absolutely, Braden.
And we will see you next time on the Frontier Entrepreneurship Podcast.
Next time on the Frontier Entrepreneurship Podcast, we bring you an award-winning business. Nuez Acres is sustainably farming pecans in Canada and manufacturing pecan oil for the cosmetics industry. Join us in conversation with co-founder Anthony Wingham. This edition of the Frontier Entrepreneurship Podcast was made possible with the support of FedDev Ontario and the Government of Canada. The executive producer is Robert Washburn. I'm John Hayden. To find out more, head to our website, nventure.ca. Thanks for listening.